All right, good afternoon, everyone. My apologies for a couple of minutes there. I had to go to a different floor. I think it fits. With that, welcome board members of the public to this February 7, 2024 Governor's Workforce Development Board meeting. For the record, my name is Ken Evans, Vice Chair of the Governor's Workforce Development Board. Before we take roll call, I'd like to ask everyone to please rise, face the flag, and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Just as a reminder to everyone, the Vice Chair kindly requests that anyone who speaks today to identify themselves for the record. Additionally, if you're not a member of the board, please give feedback during public comment or wait to be called upon by myself. With that, Katie, will you please take roll call, confirm the quorum, and verify posting?
Okay, thank you. All right, so for roll, we have Vice Chair Evans.
Present.
Thank you. Councilman Black?
Here.
Thank you. Senator Lane?
Here.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Monroe Monredo?
Here.
Thank you. Irene Bustamante Adams?
Here.
Thank you. Okay, Ken Goodrich?
Present.
Thank you. Drazen Ellis?
Present.
Thank you. Lawrence Montrose? Okay. David Drybelbis?
Here.
Thank you. Susan Breaker?
Here.
Thank you. Gina Bon Jovi?
Here.
Thank you. Okay, Lori Caldron? Okay. Maureen Schaefer? Okay. Kevin Landry? Robert Bennett?
Here.
Thank you. Edward Estefona?
Here.
Thank you. George Gall?
Here.
Thank you. Sherry Mansanota?
Here.
Oh, Jerry Merritt, thank you. Awesome. Okay, Evelyn Thompson-Hilbert?
Here.
Thank you. Christine Nelson?
Present.
Thank you. Tommy White? Okay, Leslie Mujica?
Here. Present.
Thank you. Derek Jimpy?
Present.
Thank you. Crystal Slaughter?
Present.
Thank you. Nancy Olson?
Here.
Okay, thank you. Michael Bolognini?
Here.
Thank you. Ryan Woodward?
Yeah, here.
Thank you. Brittany Brown?
Here.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Vice Chair, we have some pre-notified absences prior to the meeting, which are Scott Hammond, Chair Anderson, and Robert Thompson. And with that, Mr. Chair, Katie Gilbertson, Office of Workforce Innovation for the record, I hereby affirm that this February 7th, 2024 Governor's Workforce Development Board meeting has reached a quorum. I further affirm that the agenda and notice for this meeting were properly posted to Nevada's open meeting law, NRS 241020.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gilbertson. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is the first of our public comments sessions. Members of the public are invited to provide comments at this time. No action may be taken on any matters during public comments until the matter itself has been included on an agenda item for possible action. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comments here in Las Vegas? Any public comments in Carson City? Anyone on teleconference? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, with that, we'll close out the first public comment session. Moving on to agenda item number 5 for possible action. Is there any discussion before I call for a motion to approve the December 13, 2023 full board meeting minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the December 13, 2023 full board meeting minutes.
Mike Bellini, for the record, I make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Susan Breger, second.
It's been moved and properly second to approve the December 13, 2023 full board minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Please let the record reflect that the motion carries. Next, we're going to move on to agenda item number 6 for, oops. Okay. What I wanted to let you know is that regarding the agenda, what we're going to do is bring item number 12 forward. And we'll do that right after agenda number 6. But other than that, we'll follow the agenda as posted. And with that, we'll move to agenda item number 6. And agenda item number 6 is for discussion and information only. The Vice Chair recognizes the Director of the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation, Christopher Sewell, to provide some remarks on behalf of Governor Lombardo.
Good afternoon. For the record, Chris Sewell, I'm the Director of DETR. And thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. Thank you for allowing us here. I want to apologize first on behalf of the governor that he could not make it. There's just something small going on in Las Vegas this week that is taking up a lot of his time. So he does apologize for not being able to be here to give comments. Workforce. Workforce has many definitions, but I think the one definition that the governor likes to use is workforce is a major part of economic development. Whether that economic development is in Clark County, Washoe, Elko, or any of the other counties in the state of Nevada. Economic development helps drive the economic engine of the state of Nevada. That economic development can come in two ways. New businesses coming to Nevada, and a lot of those businesses coming to Nevada through the governor's Office of Economic Development, GOED. And I'm sure everyone reads the news and hears about everything going on in our state to the west of us. They're losing population and they're losing businesses, and that's an advantage for Nevada. We have a great business environment here, and I think that's going to help with our economic development. So how does that correspond with who's already here? Well, part of that economic development is helping current businesses that are here, small businesses that are here. And we want to make sure that we help both. And we also want to make sure that we bring in the new businesses that we need to bring in. When I say that we want to help the businesses that are here, that's through upskilling. We want to make sure that they keep their employees. And upskilling is a very integral part of keeping their employees. If we have a business that wants to keep an employee and they don't have the mechanisms to maybe help train that employee, we can do that. DETR and their partners can do that. The Northern Board has a grant for upskilling. And we want to make sure that we utilize that. And then we can help backfill that employee that just got a promotion and a raise and help hire that vacancy for that small business or that business that has been here for 50 years. It was an interesting side note. I was informed this morning that there was an article in the New York Times this morning. It's called "How Nevada is pushing to generate jobs beyond the casinos. We live in a very strategic area, both north and south. For Las Vegas, we have I-15 going right through the middle of it. That's a major transportation hub. For Northern Nevada, you have Interstate 80. And that's also a major transportation thoroughfare. So we're going to take advantage of those items. And we're going to try to bring in those businesses that need, whether it's warehousing or, helping the rest of the nation with the lithium loop. Lithium can only be mined in certain areas. That's a fact. We have one of the largest lithium mines in Northern Nevada. But batteries can be made anywhere. Recycling can be done anywhere. So that new business that might come into Southern Nevada might be a whole new recycling plant. And we need to make sure that we have work to do those jobs. And that's where Dieter and our partners come in. What does it look like right now? Well, currently we have Owen, Office of Workforce Innovation. We have a new executive director, Scott Hammond. He's a former senator. Scott and I have talked a lot about where we need to take workforce. And probably the first two things is we're going to work closely with our two local boards in the south and in the north. That has to happen, and that has to continue. Because the local boards know exactly what they need, whether it comes to businesses or training. And the local board in Southern Nevada might need something a little bit more different than a local board in Northern Nevada. But that partnership is going to continue. We have our employee NV offices. And we have the employee NV business hubs. And that's in conjunction with our local boards. And it's working great. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're making that wheel stronger and faster. We also need to work closely with our other partners in GOED, Department of Education, HHS, and other state agencies and local agencies that have a workforce component. So, Owen's the spear, the very point of that spear. Owen basically brings everyone together and finds, hey, where do we need to go? What type of employment and training do we need to make sure that our employees in the state of Nevada have for the next generation? One of the things that we've been talking about is when Governor Sandoval created Owen, it was for youth job skill grant. And it worked out great. So what do we do now? We have a lot of agencies that are in workforce. We need to tie all that together now. That's the next step. We discussed this morning in a roundtable. And the next step is tying all that together. And I think we've come up with a plan. It's called Midas. And Midas is going to allow us the ability to take that next step. So that way, we can make sure that those individuals that are just entering the job market have that micro-credentialing or have that credential from a community college. But not just have it, but have it with them. So that way, when they're in an interview and they can tell that prospective employer, I've gone through this training, and this training, and it's all on Midas. And it's all approved training. They can take it with them. But it just doesn't stop there. It goes on to the workers to reinvent themselves. And they'll have the same opportunity. That it's going to tie everything together. It's going to encourage the businesses in this state to be a part of it. And that is lacking. I think it's less than 10% are part of, our workforce program as a business. We need to change that. We want the best workforce in the nation, and we want the best businesses in the nation, and they need to work together. That's our job now. We're going to bring it all together. If you type in Workforce Nevada in a search engine, you're going to come up with a whole list of agencies and organizations that say they do workforce in Nevada. You click on one, they're going to take all your information. And then they're going to say, well, we have this job and this job, but half of those, and I think I went through 12 of them, half of those end up going right back into Employee NV, Dieter's website. The other half take the information and say, here's a few jobs. We need to look at consolidating that, especially at the state agency level. We need to make sure that not only is Dieter doing the right thing, but they have all of the pieces and parts at a state level underneath one roof. Whether that's adult education, of ed, or we have a Displaced Homemakers Commission in Dieter. But we need to make sure all that's underneath one roof so that we're all working and pulling the same way. And so that way, when we have someone that is looking for a job or wants to upskill, they know where to go. Also expand our one-stops. Our one-stops are great because that ties in not only workforce and Dieter, but it ties in the Department of Education and adult education. It ties in HHS and social services that HHS provide, all in one stop. So that way, when they walk through the door or they get online, we can help them. Not just whether it's for unemployment or looking for a new job, but do they need other services, whether that be food stamps or help for their children. That's what our one-stops do, and we need to expand those one-stops. So that's sort of where we want to head. And it's going to take the businesses, it's going to take all the state agencies, it's going to take our partners at the local level to do that. And it's going to take you. It's going to take the Governor's Workforce Development Board and the foresight that you're going to have on what we need to do. I encourage you to talk to GoEd. Have GoEd make a presentation. Find out what's out there. Find out what they're working on. I know that the agencies do make presentations before this board. I encourage that. I encourage you to reach out to Redwood Materials, a lithium recycling company in Northern Nevada, and ask them, where do they see they're going to be in 5 or 10 years? Are they going to want to expand? We need to keep an eye on that. Las Vegas Global Alliance, I'm sure they have a lot of things to say about where they want to be in 10 years. And we need to partner. And that's workforce in Nevada. We want to be able to create a great workforce in Nevada. Are we ever going to get rid of tourism? No, we live in the sports and entertainment capital of the world. That's never going to go away. It's only going to get better. We have mining in Northeast Nevada. Good paying jobs. But we need to make sure we continue that. And that's where workforce, and that's where the governor wants to head. Anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Director. So does anyone have any questions? Any board member have any questions? And I know this isn't a bashful group, so.
Ryan Woodward for the record. Thanks for that. Just appreciate your sharing that vision with us. I'm just curious a little bit more about the MIDAS system. Is that an app? Is that an online login? How does that kind of
It's actually
work
going to
with
be,
certification?
it's actually going to be a whole new computer system that we're going to be, well, actually before, we have 2 members of the legislature on the board. They'll probably be seeing it at IFC tomorrow morning. And that's something that Executive Director Hammond and I have been working on. We need to make that next step. We need to bring this all together for the benefit of all Nevada workers. And so that's what it's going to be. And when we get this going, we're going to have a workforce summit. And we're going to roll this out and we're going to explain the whole system at the workforce summit. It's a good program, it's a good system. The Department of Education is actually using that for their teachers. Because I think it's 4 years, they have to be re-credentialed, and they're using that to track their credentialing. So the system works. It's being used in Utah. What Utah told us is, oh, you guys are going to get it. We're going to have competition now. So the system does work, and it ties everything together, which is what we were talking about this morning. And it will have that ability to do it.
Board member Estepona.
Edward Estepona for the record. So I assume because it's a computer system that there is a web-based app mechanism, because if we're giving it to each worker's hands, and showing it, there's that. But then on the flip side of it, I also assume, because this is one of the biggest challenges we have right now, is once we have somebody in our system, they're getting some form of education, whether they drop out or not. Is this a way that we can connect back to that person? Because it is something, again, that it's a two-way connection, because we're losing that connection right now. And that's the biggest challenge, is trying to make sure we get that connection strong, as opposed to, okay, they drop out and we lose them for 6 months and don't know where they're at.
Yes, it's a two-way connection.
Okay.
And that's actually what
That's cool.
great thing about this. Eventually, what we hope this system's going to be able to do is not only let them take their micro credentials in their wallet and on their phone, but also remind them, hey, by the way, you signed up for an interview tomorrow. Don't forget to get ready for that. If you need help on,
That's good.
interview questions or interview, having to be a part of an interview, come down to our employee MD office. We have classes for that. If you need something for your resume, we can help you with that. We have classes for that. And so it's going to be a two-way street.
And they'll be able to also look up jobs maybe, or
Yes.
even get notifications when jobs pop up.
Correct. We want the businesses to be a part of this.
Awesome.
And so that way they can also market what they have.
Here we have time for one more question, and Board member Jumpy.
Yeah, Derek, this is Derek Jumpy for the record. This is, so I have a technology background. I lead emerging digital innovation at MGM Resorts International. And one of the things that when it comes to new tech, we find very challenging is digital access, right? Digital literacy, digital equity as a whole. So as we think about, so it's the first thing that comes to mind when we think about new systems. So I'm interested in hearing, as we think about the implementation of the system, how are we thinking about addressing the digital access, the literacy to make the system actually work?
Well, I think, for the most part, I think everyone has a cell phone, smartphone. And those that don't, that's what our employee envy offices are there for. And we can help walk through that and help them with that. So there's going to be, when we're training for workforce and we're training individuals for our workforce, and I'm going to use the Tropicana example. We talked about the Tropicana this morning. Tropicana had to give Dieter a warn notice that they were closing. And we have a program that we immediately send over a bunch of people over to the Tropicana saying, we have jobs available. Would you like to go over there? We can set interviews for you. And those individuals, as I said, a dealer knows exactly where they want to go. They know exactly where they need to apply. But what happens to the individual that really doesn't know that maybe has a barrier for employment? That's what our employee envy officers are there to help. We're going to cut those barriers down. And we do it every single day. Whether that's buying a pair of boots, paying for an OSHA 10 card, helping them with their interview and skills. And you know what? If we can find them a job, that's great. But there's times when we find a job for them and it doesn't work out. Do we give up on that individual? No. We encourage them to come back. Let's see if you will want to do this. And if we have to retrain that individual, we will retrain that individual. So we are very cognizant of the barriers, and that's going to be part of the system.
I need to move on. I apologize, but I need to move on in the interest of time. Thank you again, Director Sewell. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this as it comes on board, especially this group here. With that, we'll close out agenda item number 6, and we'll move on to agenda item number 7 for discussion and information only. The Vice Chair recognizes the Executive Director of the Office of Workforce Innovation, Scott Hammond, to provide some introductory remarks. And I believe Mr. Hammond is on the phone.
Yes, I'm on the phone on Zoom. I don't know if you guys can see me. I have no idea, but
Yes.
if you guys can hear me, I'll go ahead and present some stuff. And I do apologize. Good. I apologize. I was called to New York last minute. Maybe Ken can explain in a minute why I'm here, but I wanted to take the time. I'm with family now, but I wanted to take the time to address you all on what my vision is. And I'm glad that Director Sewell kind of talked a little bit about some of the things that we have discussed at length that he and I are very excited about. I'll tell you, I'll be brief because I can tell you the 3 things that sort of haunt my mind every day is 1, we have to really marry K-12 and workforce together. There's got to be a lot of changes and a lot of foundation that's built in there. And the key component to that is that Midas system that he spoke about. The other is we have a lot of what we call career technical education in schools. I love, which is great. And we have to have that because that's the way things are lining up for the last 6 or 7 years. We see that our economy is more skills based than ever. The more skills you have as a potential employee, the better off you are, the more job opportunities you're going to have. But aside from having the skills that are taught in the schools, you really have to develop pathways so that as you go through, you matriculate through K-12, or you, especially middle school, high school, there's that link to a job as soon as you get out of high school. We have to bring industry into the schools as partners in this. And that's the one thing that I'm really optimistic about. And I know that Superintendent Ebert, we've talked about this in the past as well. I've talked to her folks, Greg Statuki with the Department of Education. I mean, there's going to be an emphasis on creating these pathways. That's one of the things that AB 428 from this last legislative session is also mandating that we do, and that is creating these nascent pipelines in schools that, again, lead to jobs right after school. And you have to bring in these industries. You know, one of the pipelines that we have to create in the South in Clark County is the teacher pipeline, but we also have to concentrate, and we've picked out 2 other industries, healthcare and clean energy. And so that's going to be a part of that vision we have for K-12. And of course, Director Sewell mentioned this a minute ago, that another one of the priorities is making sure that we're helping those folks out there who have already graduated, who are out there in the workforce, who need to get skills. And they do that by working with the local workforce boards. And if they don't have or they already have the skills, but they're changing jobs, and we have to skill up. And so, you know, that's another concentration that we have. And then, of course, working with this board and working with others in the legislature, making sure that the money we're spending in workforce has an ROI. That's the third goal that I have, is to make sure that the impediments, as we're trying to eliminate them, we're trying to figure out how our money is being spent and how it is actually delivering the results. And so working with this board, working with the chair and your vice chair and all the subcommittees, it really is a matter of making sure that we are getting somewhere with the resources that we're spending. So those are pretty much the 3 areas that I'm concentrating on. Director Sewell mentioned the Midas system. I think that is a game changer. And you're right, it is digital. We want to make sure that everybody has access to it. But the reason why I liked it, the first time I heard from the Midas folks, they were explaining to me how they were using it in Department of Education. So when somebody has to renew their license every 5 or 6 years, I can't remember how long it is. I think it's about 5 or 6 years. You know, a lot of times teachers are like, okay, what classes do I need to take that would count towards my renewal? And so the system is linked. You can go in there, it says, hey, if you need to take this class will count towards your recredentialing. And you can take it here, you can take it at this university, you can take it at UNLV, you could take it, you know, at Truckee Meadows Community College, you could take it wherever. And then it has the next steps that you might have. So everything is linked together. And I said, you know, that's what I would like, because another priority really, folks, is that students of today need to get more experience before they get out of high school. We have to have a very good internship program. I know we're concentrating on apprenticeships, but that apprenticeship and an internship needs to be somewhere that somebody can access. If somebody's knowing, well, what can I look for? I want to do electric, you know, maybe there's a pre-apprenticeship program. A teacher pipeline is going to be UNLV is developing an apprenticeship program for teachers. I mean, all that stuff needs to be located somewhere, easily accessible and statewide. And so I went to them with the idea that we have to have a system in place so kids can have more work-based learning, internship opportunities, apprenticeship opportunities, pre-apprenticeship opportunities. Where do we put them? And then they took it a step further and said, really, you should have a digital wallet. You should have something that says, these are the credentials I have now, but it links. So if you want to get this job and you want to talk to this employer right now, then you probably need to get this credential, this micro credential, and this micro credential leads to this micro credential, and then have it accessible on the platform so that when an employer says, hey, we're looking for 20 people who have these skills, then it sends out a notification so that everybody who's on that system can say, well, I've got those skills right there. I'll go ahead and make my wallet accessible to that future or potential employer. So it really is a game changer, because we're accessing all these students, not only K-12, but beyond that as well when they get out. And we will be having the Midas folks come in. We're going to invite them to do a presentation to this board. I think Katie will be able to tell you when we're scheduling that. But that's what's exciting to me. There's a lot of things we have to do, but those 3 goals of mine, they're wrapped up in those things that we're doing right there. And then on top of that, I think I'm going to stop because I don't want you guys to be distracted by the fact that I didn't wear a tie and I didn't wear a suit. I wore one all day yesterday. It was draining on me. This is the first time I had to go through losing a parent. And so it's been an emotional roller coaster since I've been here, but I've been trying to relax today with my family and just kind of, be in the moment. But one of the things that I wanted Kristen in the room, Kristen is there. Kristen Dwyer is, she is in charge of Empower. But there's another thing that we have been asked to do to partner with UNR, and we're actually incorporating the things that I've just talked about, AB 428. We're going to be talking about internships. We're going to be talking about money for internships so that students have a real opportunity at working in that industry before they get out of high school. I mean, that's how you capture some of these students before they move on somewhere, is that you give them real opportunities so they can see what they like. But she's going to talk a little bit about the Tech Hub and the Tech Hub grant that is going on right now and all the work that she's doing there. And I want to sing your praises, Kristen. You had to put together a proposal in the matter of 2 weeks that is trying to bring in $70 million into the state, and she turned that around real fast. So I'm going to turn over the time to Kristen. But if there's any questions I can answer real quick, I'll take, because you guys all have really serious looks on your face. I'll take 2 questions and then I'll turn it over to Kristen.
Okay, any questions for Executive Director Hammond? Board Member Jemke?
Dr. Hammond, first, on my sincere condolences. My question is more so just back to Midas. Is Midas replacing a system or an existing system, or is this a new system we're bringing in to integrate existing systems?
This will be the good question. This is going to be a new system. This is new, and you're not going to find this hardly anywhere. We're kind of breaking ground, but we are behind. If one of the things that we were able to glean from this conference that we just came back from is that there's many other states are sort of ahead of us in this area, but this right here would get us not only up to where everybody is, but probably a little bit ahead. Nobody has a system or have contemplated a system like this where everything is going to be, on one place, but this is a brand new system. One of the things that it came to my mind when I was talking to folks at UNLV, there were folks sitting around a table and there were employers there, and they said, hey, when we want an intern, we go to UNLV. We put together a little list of what this intern is going to look like, what what jobs responsibilities they're going to have, what we'd like them to do, how long it's going to last, yada yada yada. And then we give it to UNLV, and then I said, well, what happens then? When how long do you when do you get the results? And they go, we don't know what happens to it. UNLV's got a great system, but a lot of times, an employer doesn't know what happens to the internship application, and they just all of a sudden start getting interns. Somebody signs up and they say, okay, we're going to have you guys come in and interview. I said, well, how many times did people look at the internship? They couldn't tell me. Did you have to change it maybe to get more people interested? They couldn't tell me. Everything like that's going to be on this brand new system, right? So they'll know how many times somebody hit it. They'll know if it's not getting much interest. Maybe they need to change it. Maybe the wording needs to be changed so people understand what the internship is. We're just going to get more data from this because everything's going to be online, but it is going to be a brand new system. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Time for one more question. Okay, let me say this very quickly. Again, Executive Director Hammond, or Scott, if you will, on behalf of Chair Anderson and myself, definitely our heartfelt condolences to you and your family. We are indeed with you there in spirit, and we'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers in the days and weeks ahead.
Well, Ken, and I appreciate it, Ken. I'll say this. I know that you're very sincere when you say that because you were right there with me when I found out, and I can feel your love. I appreciate it. And I'll turn the time over and I'll let you guys go and I'll just kind of listen in. Okay. Thank you very much. And Kristen, take over.
Hi, everybody. Kristen Dwyer, the Empower Manager for the record. So my title is Empower Manager, but as Scott mentioned, we were reached out to by UNR in January saying, hey, we are leading a Tech Hub grant, that they did a phase 1 application, that they were able to get phase 1. So that meant that they could then apply for the larger proposal. And they're like, hey, we would like our office to kind of help lead, to have a full workforce thought behind it, where before it was kind of focused on the community colleges. So we said, sure, absolutely, jumped right in. This Tech Hub grant is going to be changing for the state. It lines up perfectly with what Director Sewell was saying before. I know the governor's office has been very much involved in this, aware of this opportunity. This opportunity is focused around lithium mining, but it goes beyond that. One of the major aspects of this grant is there's 6 different sectors of it. We're just kind of helping have the workforce side of it to again think of all encompassing, where it's not just the higher ed side, but our adult education side of working them in, our groups like DHHS, having all these supportive services, these wraparounds that truly help an individual get into these jobs, where again are not just like a bachelor or master's type degrees. You also have a lot of entry-level jobs. But the big thing with this is we're estimating about 50,000 jobs with it. It's not just around lithium mining, it's around everything with it, because we know the first aspect with the lithium mining is all the construction that needs to be done. You can have all the construction workers. And then we also have to build up the whole infrastructure around this. So as I mentioned, there's 6 sectors to this. One of the sectors is around infrastructure, because they know out in these communities, they have to build these setups for these mines. And then with that, you have to bring in, of course, then teachers. You need to bring in, healthcare. There's all these other aspects to really, truly change everything here for the state. So we're very excited about it. And it's something that, again, we have been working diligently, bringing together a number of partners. So it's not just kind of this initial higher education focus, but a broader focus with that as well, to, again, really help and change the lives for people here in the state. So that's our quick tech up. And just so folks know, it's a $40 to $70 million about grant. We're going to go for the full 70 million. And there is a lot of match that we're trying to go after here with the state too. That they're actually on IFC tomorrow for folks who are involved with IFC. I know that there's an aspect of that in there as well too, to again, really make this commitment here from at the state level of here's how we can really change this community around, so.
Thank you, Ms. Dwyer. Any questions from the board for Ms. Dwyer at this time? And I'm sure there'll be more as we yes, Mr. President.
Ed Respona for record. So I'm just maybe less of a question, more of maybe a statement or a request that when we go through this, I do, so oftentimes when it starts with a 4-year institution, it's very 4-year institution heavy. And so much of our economy today is not reliant on that 4-year. So one, I do hope it is looking at more workforce, but then 2, hoping to look at this as an opportunity to because there's a chunk of funding that's coming in, hopefully chunk funding that, so with these matches, where we're doubling, tripling our money potentially, depending on how it works out, that we use this as an opportunity to take all the existing players that are in this space of workforce now to unite them together, because so many times these organizations or these agencies, they're all splintered. And I think rather than, having somebody sit on the outside going, what about me? Inviting them to the table right away, even if it's prematurely, I think it's a good time to just kind of make sure that they're all there and they understand there's a role in there for them. So that's just my only comment on it. Thank you.
Kristen Dwyer for the right. Just help clarify. That was one of the reasons that UNR reached out to us, is that they're actively pushing. This is not a 4-year type degree program at all. They understand when I reached out, like our most successful program that we've had out of our office is Project Sandy, which is all about these certificates. So I'm like, this is what we like. This is what has been very helpful. So they are fully aware. And I know that President Sandoval has been very aware, very much a proponent to again, it's coming out of the university, but truly having this whole statewide, all-encompassing approach. That's what I've been really targeting to. So thank you.
Ms. Brady?
And Susan Breger for the record. Maybe when all this starts taking place, maybe libraries can be helpful for those that don't have the technology behind them. And can we think about what the Did You Know campaign? We sit around here, people that have been involved for, I'm not going to even say how long I've been involved. And we know it. And all of us in this room know that. And in the other rooms that we sit in and all the boards that we sit on, or where we hold positions within the community, sometimes we forget that most people don't know. And I think a Did You Know campaign in many areas of our state, quite frankly, need to be identified so that people really know where, what, how, when, and what they can do. And we think they know it, but I'm going to tell you that they do not. So that's just how I feel.
Krista Drucker, I just want to say thank you that I have actually brought in the library, some of the librarian aspects with this. And that was actually the first thing that I brought up when they asked us, hey, can you help with this? Is to do an outreach campaign around it where it has to be very targeted to getting folks with these jobs where, again, because we're going to be targeting folks at all different types of levels, whether they might be somebody who wants to upskill or it's somebody, maybe working at the casinos going, hey, here's a whole new job opportunity. So it's going to be a whole big, I want to do a whole campaign around it to help inform folks.
And some of the most of the people that need some of those jobs have had a problem in the past, and they've done really great things for years, but they can't get rid of their past. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to teach more how they can seal their records so that they can get a job, because they are not criminals anymore. And that's why the system goes around in a circle, is because they can't get a job because of that past. They have a future. And that's just something I really just believe in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Berger. I'll very quickly add, Ken Evans for the record. Several of us attended the National Governors Association NGA conference last week, and that was one of the things that was discussed. Because of some current rules, we can't market, quote unquote, but we can do education and outreach. So two-pronged attack. Let's figure out how we can continue to educate and do outreach, but at the same time, hopefully there's a subset of us that can work on that Department of Labor restriction, if you will, regarding marketing. I'll stop there so I don't get in trouble. Okay. With that, we're going to close out this agenda. As I mentioned, we're going to bring agenda item 12 forward because after that, we'll be having a discussion and other agenda items regarding the state plan. With that, moving on to agenda item number 12 for discussion and information item only. The chair recognizes Strategic Analysis Manager Brett Miller and Executive Director Ani Cruz at Workforce Connections to briefly present the Community Investment Impact Dashboard. And again, this is just to give you maybe a 2 or 3 minute flavor for something that we may have one more discussion on. And I'll turn it over at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll let Brett have all the time to demo the tool, just to give context to why this tool exists. As been said before by several speakers, this system that this board oversees to convene has 17 mandated partners or funding streams or programs, if you will. And they're all unique, because if you think about Title I, it's, the adult dislocated worker and youth programs. Title II is adult education, family literacy. Title III is Wagner-Paiso. Title IV is people with disabilities. There's vets programs. There's all kinds of different things. But the common thing is what was mentioned earlier. These are people with barriers to employment, many times high. And so it's not your usual, the majority of our customers are not your typical, there are some, but not your typical customer that is ready to go to work right now. And so sometimes they need skill acquisition. Sometimes they need more basic things like childcare, help with transportation, help with, the uniforms, tools, a list of things. So again, those stories of removal of barriers don't happen immediately. They certainly don't happen in 3 months. As you heard before, there's sealing of records. There's all kinds of things that happen sometimes in the lives of these people that we're trying to help join the workforce. Because again, as you all know, there's not a long list of people out here that are highly skilled and ready to go to work. We're tapping into the most difficult to, if you will, to remove barriers for. And so with that in mind, the last thing I'll say is it's very difficult to look at our system and kind of measure the return on investment in 3 months. It's like trying to understand a long 24-chapter novel by looking at just one of the chapters. It's impossible to tell the story, to really understand the journey of those characters. And so the more you zoom out in our system, the more you really get to measure the return on investment, because you follow those participants over the months, sometimes years of their journey in our system. So with that said, we created this this online dashboard using the data that's in the management information system, the data that our American Job Center staff put into the system by the request of the local elected officials here in Southern Nevada. They really, as you're finding out, our system can be very complex because each one of those titles has different requirements, different eligibility, different measurements. And so we wanted to tell a story of return on investment. We wanted to tell a story of effectiveness of the system. And that's why this tool was created. It's been well accepted here by our local elected officials in Southern Nevada. I know some of you have seen it already from the executive committee, and Brent, I'll pass it on to you to demo the tool.
Thank you, Jaime. And thank you, Mr. Chair and board members, for giving me the opportunity to show some of the work we've been doing down here. So as my executive director mentioned, this is a tool that allows us to be a little bit more transparent, to try to communicate that value proposition of our services. And hopefully do it in a way that's easily understandable. Can I get a confirmation that everyone can see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So what we have here is we took and we uploaded 4 years worth of our providers into this system. Their expenditures, and that represents our total investment. But we coupled that with information out of Employee NV, our state MIS, for Title I adult, DW, and youth programs. In addition, NEG funding, and with barriers to employment and demographics and some geography data to come up with this interactive tool. So looking at it on the surface, over the last 4 years, we've invested $77.5 million back into the community through employment and training services. $22.5 million in classroom style trainings, which are typically done through the eligible training provider list. $1.2 million on the job training. We've provided $3.8 million in supportive services to individuals. Oftentimes that's assistance with transportation. For youth, we've provided $6.14 million in a paid work experience to give them the opportunity to see what an occupation is like, to build some of those skills they need to be mentored by someone in the business world. And then, of course, $32.3 million to provide these services. As my executive director pointed out, the individuals that we serve, oftentimes they don't have the tools that we have. They've come to our system, they won't have a resume. They won't know how to make a resume. They won't have a computer to do that. And that's just one example. And those things to work with individuals, it takes the staff to provide those. Then, of course, there's another $11.5 million that's, associated with most businesses, things like accounting and management and, and HR and dealing with people. But so that $77.5 million allowed us to serve 12,800 individuals roughly. And those individuals so far, and we're still measuring, have generated $186.1 million in annualized wages. Employment, 58%, in the second quarter, fourth quarter, 46. Credential rate for those that received training, 71%. And then if we were to measure a return on investment by taking the annualized wages and using those to pay off the original investment, it would take 5 months. Comparatively speaking to an investment in, say, the stock market, that's stellar, where it may take you 7 years to get your money back. So the return on investment is good. Now you may say, well, you know, the employed, say 4 quarter, that looks a little low. Well, you know, our system in all of its complexity, you know, we're always measuring and still working on measuring future years. If we look at a completed year, you can see the 22.7 million invested, roughly 3,300 completions, 79 million in annualized wages. And you can see what happened with this 2Q and this 4Q employment. And that's historically a little higher than where we've been in the past, you know, 75, 76%. And a return on investment comes down significantly to 3.4 months. Now, one of the other neat things about this is if I want to zero in, if anybody wants to zero in on, say, a particular city, I can look at what have the results for Las Vegas been, right? We invested $6 million in Las Vegas in PY22, 857, 3.4 month return. And maybe I want to talk about what happened in a local elected officials area, and we invested almost $1 million, 144, and 3.8 on the return in months. And then just to top it all off, we've got a whole host of approximately 23 different ways the data can be filtered and looked at based on, you know, a state assembly, state senate, congressional districts, a particular employee NV hub, barriers to employment, demographics, and just some other things. And with that, I know I promised Mr. Chair that I would not take a lot of time because there's a very heavy agenda. I will take any questions.
Well, actually what we're going to do, thank you very much, Mr. Miller. At this point, we're going to continue moving forward with the agenda. However, we have the ability to invite you back at a future. In fact, we'll just go ahead and commit to that right now. We can bring you back so that we can have further discussion at the next meeting. Just coordinate that with Ms. Gilbertson.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
One real quick discussion.
Thank you. This is Mike Bonini for the record. Just a question on the annualized revenue. Those are actuals, not extrapolated?
Yes, those the annualized wages, they are based off of, we measure a single quarter, and so it is extrapolated in the sense that you have to take it from one quarter and annualize it to a year, but it is based on real wages.
So and is there a validation of how are you tracking if somebody leaves a job after 6 months? You're counting and annualizing that over a 12-month period, but they may not have worked for 12 months?
That is true. There is some validation when you look at the same group of individuals that was employed at a 76% rate in the second quarter was also employed at a 76% rate in the fourth quarter. Now, there could be some churn involved in that, but that indicates that in general, these individuals are staying employed for a full year.
Okay, and with that, Mr. Miller, again, as you see there's please plan to come back because I'm sure there'll be additional questions. And once people have a chance to digest it on their own, I assume that there's a way to give people the link where they can do their own hunt and pecking. So we'll ask that you work with Ms. Gilbertson to provide that type of access. And then again, we'll bring you back for a future agenda item. Two things I very quickly wanted to say. Once again, the type of things that I think we'd like to see as board members so that we can ask the right questions to be supportive. And then number two, I want everyone to recognize that Mr. Miller compiled this in his own time, off time, if you will. So I just want to make sure, once again, we publicly recognize you and thank you for that type of effort. So thanks again.
Thank you.
The links are in your packets, by the way, so you can get them online.
All right. With that, we're going to go back to the original order of our, I have to take my glasses off to see up close. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to agenda item number 8 for discussion and information item only. The vice chair recognizes the executive director who will facilitate a discussion on the, actually it's going to be Ms. Gilbertson, but will facilitate a discussion on the WIO estate plan. Since the last time the plan was presented to the board, it was sent to the governor's office for review and also went through a 30-day public comment period. Today, the board will vote to approve the final version of before it is sent to the U.S. Department of Labor and U.S. Department of Education. Submission of the WIO estate plan ensures millions of dollars in federal funding for workforce to our state. I am extremely grateful for the state plan working group, the strategic planning subcommittee, and the governor's workforce development board for working so diligently on this over the past year. Okay. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm the one that's supposed. Okay, so I did my script here. Forgive me. Senior moment when you turn 60. Okay. All right. Very quickly, we went through the state planning process, and what I basically want to do right now is find out, are there any questions? Hopefully, everyone's had a chance to review it. Again, we went through the public comment. So before we go to the agenda item where we call for the approval, does anyone have any questions?
Mike Boney, for the record, I'd like to publicly thank Nancy Olson for her leadership in really getting us through a very arduous process, focused on shrinking, getting it very succinct, and still meeting within the timeframes for us to be able to submit the state plan to the federal government. So thank you, Nancy, for all of your leadership and hard work on this. It was a serious endeavor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I concur. Nancy has been down this road before, so I would have thought she was a little crazy when she took on the endeavor, but you know, that's her. Anyway, I just want to confirm with, Chris Nelson for the record. I want to confirm with Owen that the governor has indeed approved the plan and signed off on the plan for submission. Can you?
Yeah, Katie Gilbertson for the record, yes.
Okay, and then secondly, the strategic plan, the annual strategic plan, what is the ETA on that?
Okay, thank you. For the record, Vice Chair Evans, regarding the strategic plan, and just again for the record refresher, the strategic plan that we're working on right now, it's a 2 to 3 page draft document that has been extrapolated from the strategic objectives as well as other similar sections within the compliance-oriented state plan. The intent moving forward is to form a task force, which will be a subset of co-chair Nancy Olson, myself, and 2 or 3 other board members will form a task force. We'll pull together to revise that strategic plan. The goal being to complete that within the next 90 days. With the understanding, we're still going to engage key stakeholders, meaning the title representatives, that are here either on the board or that act as subject matter experts to the board. But the bottom line is, to answer your question, the goal is to form that task force and get the strategic plan done within the next 90 days. Yes, understood. All right, cool. All right, so with that, seeing no other hands or anything like that, let me too add my extreme pleasure for you, Co-Chair Nancy Olson, for the way that you helped us, again, do two things: streamline the document, as well as to make sure that we begin to extract the kernels for your plan that we hope will be real time. Something that'll help us as a board to be impactful, make key decisions, give key inputs in a relevant manner, in a timely manner as we move forward. So thank you again for all your efforts. And now what I want to officially do as a part of that is we have some recognition from you from the governor himself. And this is dated February 7, 2024. And I want to put this into the record. Dear Ms. Olson, on behalf of the state of Nevada, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to you for your exceptional leadership in spearheading the initiative to write, revise, and submit the 2024 Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act WIOA State Plan for Nevada. Your unwavering dedication and tireless efforts have not gone unnoticed. Your commitment to this crucial undertaking has not only showcased your expertise, but has also provided our state with the opportunity to secure vital federal funding that will undoubtedly contribute to the betterment of our workforce and our community. Thank you, Nancy, for your invaluable contribution to the advancement of Nevada's workforce development. Your exemplary work is a testament to your passion and commitment to the betterment of our great state. Sincerely, Joe Lombardo, Governor. So congratulations.
Nancy Olson, for the record, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge all the hard work of Katie, Kristen, others on the work group, but most especially Ariana Florence.
And with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 9 for possible action, approval of the WIOA State Plan. Is there any further discussion before I call for a motion to approve the WIOA State Plan? Okay, therefore, hearing no further discussion, I call for a motion to approve. Do I have a motion?
I will move to approve. For the record.
How fitting, and if I may, as the vice chair that made the journey with her, I'd like to second.
Very good.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any, sorry about that, by the way. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Please let the record reflect that the motion carries, so congratulations. Thank you all. Okay, moving on to agenda item 10 for discussion and information item only. The vice chair will provide an update on the GWDB strategic plan. And very quickly, as I just mentioned, the goal here is to extrapolate, and hopefully by now, all board members have seen the 2 to 3 page document that outlines the strategic plan direction. Again, it is tied to the compliance-oriented plan. The ultimate goal is to further refine that document with the task force that I mentioned. So with that, I'll ask, are there any other questions or discussion on the pathway forward for that? Hearing and seeing none.
Chair,
Yes.
Chris Nelson for the record. So I didn't see him in the attachments and I haven't seen it since the last board meeting. So has it gone out?
Well, yes, it should have gone out, but we will make sure, Ms. Gilbert's gonna work to make sure that all the board members have a copy of the 2 to 3 page draft document. Again, I want to make sure everybody understands it's a draft document. As far as the task force, we'll be notifying a few of our members about the fact that you'll be serving on that task force, but in many cases, if not all absence, I think we put an initial plug in here. Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Olson for the record. The draft document that you're talking about, is it the document that has the overarching goals, strategies and measures from the
State plan.
state plan? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Vice Chair Evans, as well as Ms. Gilbertson, for the record, yes, the answer to your question is yes, it does. Again, it ties to the compliance-oriented strategic plan, but at the same time, not as onerous, if you will. All right, with that, we're gonna move on to agenda item number 11 for discussion and information item only. The Vice Chair will facilitate a discussion on the February submission of the title reports. You should have all received the title providers' February report submissions via email. Due to time constraints, we will not have the providers present during this agenda item. Instead, the board members can discuss their thoughts on the February submission and ask questions to the title agencies. I'll just mention that there was a gathering earlier today of less than a quorum. I want to emphasize that. There was a gathering earlier today of less than a quorum of board members that met with the title agencies to work on finding a common ground between the metrics the board members want to see and the data that the title agencies currently provide. I will invite any board member from that meeting to kick off the discussion with their initial thoughts. And what I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work my way around the room, if that's okay. And I will start with,
Chris Nelson for the record. So as Vice Chair Evans mentioned, we convened a roundtable, which I thought was very conducive to the conversation about how do we get to a full workforce system state, a cohesive workforce system, which we've struggled. I've been in this space for almost a decade now, and we've struggled, to be transparently honest, about getting that cohesiveness stuck. So I thought it was very helpful, and I thought the discussions have prompted a number of jump off boards, if you will. And I look forward to additional ones. And I also, just to be transparent to all the boards, because I don't think all the board members were present, Dieter has offered up to reach out and work with Goen to DOL, US Department of Labor, on gaining some additional, it's called TAT. There's a TAT grant. It's training and technical assistance. And that the US DOL will then come in and provide to this board that gives a very good, in my opinion, overview of the role and the purview of authority of this board, and really will help, I think, everyone gain understanding of the board and its roles. It was provided in 2021 to the board at that time. A couple members of this board received that training. So I think it's time, it's time for a refresher, I think, in my opinion.
absolutely, Vice Chair Evans, for the record, yes, as Ms. Nelson is mentioning, there are a few of us that are a bit more tenured that attended that, and I happen to attend it as well. But at the time, we had a 50% vacancy rate with our board, plus there's been some turnover. So agreed, it's probably time to look at incorporating something like that into our schedule. So more to come on that. I'm sorry, Ms. Olson.
Sorry. Nancy Olson for the record. Yes, I thought it was very valuable, and it was also very reassuring. I think that the intent from the board was to make sure that the information that we were providing as a title report was to help to drive the assistance provided by the board to the agencies, the titles on the front lines.
Question, Derek Jump for the record, my apologies, I wasn't able to make this morning's meeting. Just maybe a question for more context on the TAT training. Where, I guess, what, I'm trying to understand kind of the, I guess, how do we land on that training as it relates to the conversation that I was having?
Chris Nelson, for the record, I thought it was well received by the board. I thought I heard, at least from the people that remarked on it, that it was, it would be welcome. And I think that's your question. If not,
Yeah,
how do we go about getting it, or?
Well, no, we'll get the train. I'm trying, what I'm trying to understand is there, was there possibly the board maybe overstepping? Is that where kind of the training of?
No.
Yeah, Ryan Woodward for the record. So recognizing that as a board, we're not in it every day. We don't live the WIOA everyday system. We don't understand necessarily what Title I versus 2, 3, 4, and how they all work together or don't. All the product offerings, we hear about them, but because we don't do it every day, I think that Chris said, hey, there is a training that could help the board coming into the meetings to better understand how this all works, the whole system, what your responsibility is with that. And so it was to give us context as a board, how to better help the titles.
Yep. In fact, part of the session, and I'll continue, part of the session had to do with a spirit and a tone of what can we do as board members to assist in moving things forward in a collaborative and a cooperative manner. So that was the spirit.
Ed West, point of the record. Yeah, I thought that meeting was very productive in many ways. I think, again, having it in person is helpful because I think everybody could get the gist of what somebody's meaning as opposed to trying to get it through the technical side. But I think there are interesting things that I got out of it. I think one of the things that, I'd like to continue to kind of explore around that is, all these agencies have what I call roadblocks of time, roadblocks of resources, roadblocks of whatever. And I think it's part of this board's job to help remove some of those roadblocks. And I think there's a lot of members on this board that would do a phenomenal job in helping remove some of those roadblocks so that these services can be had a lot faster for the people that need it, right? And I think that's why we're all here. So I certainly think we need to explore some of those because I think we don't, like you said, we don't live in that day, in their world, day in, day out, so we don't understand the challenges. And I think once we understand it, we're like, oh, it's like understanding a different language, and you're like, I get it now. So I think there's that. And I think the other thing that I think that's challenging is that, where I think probably 70% of the agencies probably can get us numbers or metrics that are very similar or aligned. There are some agencies, or at least one or two, that because of the way the reporting is done, because of the structure of what the federal government wants and all these other things and how they want it, it creates a little bit of a challenge. And so when we look at these metrics, we need to kind of identify where those challenges are and pick out what are the important metrics that we can get from it. And perhaps maybe this Midas tool that's coming out would actually help gather some of this information we've been lacking. That's kind of the biggest challenge we've had right now is everybody's using different systems. They all don't talk to each other, and it's just a mess. And I think, there are some things that we could do to kind of get everything into a singular system, at least from a data standpoint. But I found today's meeting to be one of the better ones that I've actually attended, and I felt very good coming out of it.
Thank you. And one thing I'll say, one entity is even using Microsoft Excel.
Excel. It's 1990, and they want Excel back.
Just a frame of reference. Mr. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jonathan Ellis for the record. All I can say is just echo what was already said. I think it was a great meeting. It was great to be able to be in one room and kind of clearly communicate through some of the challenges that we have, but also explain how our programs function, how does the funding work, how that is connected to the data, and also maybe what are some of the variances between data of different agencies and kind of how we collaborate together and kind of to take advantage of each other's resources as well. So.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to look up on the Zoom because I think it was. Yeah. Ms. Marika? Leslie?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm here.
Okay, your thoughts or comments at this time, please?
I think it was a nice meeting and opportunity to get together, but I'm still lost as to the inability to get some of the simple information that I would like to see. But I'd like to talk to you guys about that off the record.
Understood. Okay.
Evelyn Thompson Hilbert for the record. I echo pretty much what everyone else said, and I think this is directly to Leslie's point, and Edward touched on it. First of all, I love that we were letting you guys know, the agencies know that we really appreciate work, and I just want to put that into the record because I think we had some side conversations about the hindrance of technology and how you can't read body language and how it lends itself to a lot of misinterpretation that could then feel very adversarial. And our goal is not to be adversarial. Our goal is, which I thought we were able to do today, although I felt that we still need more time and more meetings, but to really hear the concerns, to be honest. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We can say agency all we want all day long, but I was saying this morning, it's those relationships that really count, where we can exchange and communicate about exchanging resources and having support. That being said, I just want to echo again, because Maureen isn't here. Often especially from where the board sits, we may not even understand the jargon or the different languages of different agencies of what's being reported. And so I heard very clearly when you were saying this morning, and I'm pointing, I'm so sorry. Chris from Dieter, for the record. You know, you have a set of data or information that satisfies the federal requirements. And then I think the interpretation has been that we want another set of information or data or requirements. And so I just want to say for the record that those questions that are coming may come out of not understanding how it's reporting. So my invitation is, if there's reporting that we don't understand, just know not to be offended when we ask for more information, right? So for example, from a business perspective, I may be looking at like, whoa, these numbers, like I'm looking at an ROI, and as Nancy has had to say 1,000,000 times, right? The way you report in education is going to be extremely different than how just from other agencies, not to mention public reports from private is extremely different. So my goal is to try to strive for some sort of common language so that when we are back to, as new members come on the board, we can then communicate from a place of help and support and not adversarial. And I just want these numbers because, you know, I want to admonish you. And I just wanted to make sure that was in the record. So.
Mr. Woodward?
Yeah, Ryan Woodward for the record. I'll add. So, and Ryan Woodward, I'll just add one thing to it. I appreciate Director Sewell in particular committing to give us the federal numbers so we can see that. And then what I envision from that is something like Brett put together. That's so helpful from a board perspective, that dashboard, to see Title I like that. And if we can take that data and have somebody build something around that so we can all see it together, that will be very, very helpful. And so one of the great things that came out of that meeting for me, Director, was your willingness to do that. And I think we can get there where we're all trying to get. So thank you.
We will get to yes. That is the one thing I tell all my employees. We will get to yes. And so we're here to help.
Yes, Mike Bolanini for the record. I absolutely agree. And I was going to mention what Ryan said is I think at least a reasonable starting point to shift is to get what the title agencies, how they report up to the federal government, and then allow us from there to try and dissect and better understand. And then if we look to extrapolate something from that, to cull down to make it a little bit easier for us to have some dialogue and to figure out where there are some roadblocks and obstacles. One of the things that we talked about was when federal funding comes into the state, the arduous process to actually get approval to use those dollars for what they were intended for. And that to me was a huge red flag, but a good light bulb to say, here's something that as a board, we need to try and use our influence at both within the governor's office and within the legislature to try and fix that particular issue. And so I think starting from what you guys have to generate and then working backwards as opposed to us saying, well, here's what we want, whether it may be applicable or additive work when you guys are already busy. I think starting at this point from that point and then saying, okay, well, we don't understand, or now we can ask questions of what does this really mean, and then bring it into maybe our language for how we help you, I think was a very positive step out of today. Yeah.
Thank you. Vice Chair Evans, for the, I want to say is thank you to everyone. I want to say thank you to the board members who made themselves available. I also want to say thank you to the directors and the title representatives and staff that made themselves available as well. It was a cooperative effort. It was a collaborative effort. At times, we had to express frustrations, but that's okay. One of the points that came out, and Mr. Bololini made a good point of stating this, is moving forward, we've got to be willing in this forum here to call the baby ugly, to borrow a phrase. If Ms. Merritt's on the call, which she was, that's a saying that we used to use in my previous life at the Urban Chamber. Sometimes you've got to call the baby ugly so that you can, get the right clothes and clean it up and everything. But the point being, as we move forward, we may have to have additional forums like this morning or gatherings, but at the same time, that can't take the place of us having the necessary conversations in this more formal, official environment. In the interest of focusing everyone, I'll just say it again at the risk of repeating myself. 2 primary goals: make sure we have a more professionally and culturally competent workforce development system. That's for the entire state, for all the veterans, and then defining that as on the front end, equitable access and awareness, and then on the back end, the term du jour that I picked up last week, family sustaining wages and a career path. And again, if we're creating a system that does those 2 things, I think we're going to be well on our way. And this morning was definitely a step in that direction. So again, on behalf of Chair Anderson and myself, thank you all to all of you who participated this morning. Ms. Gilbertson, do you have anything to add? I want to, because you're a key part as well.
Oh, yeah, no, thank you. Again, Katie Gilbertson for the record. Thank you for everybody that came today. And for those that were included, that want to be included, if you want to let me know. Just with those kind of gatherings, we have to make sure we count who's there for open meeting law's sake. So we can rotate people on or however we want to set that up. But yeah, I just thank you. Thank you to Nancy again for the state plan. This is a really big feat for us to get that over and through. So, and all these conversations tie into that, the strategic plan. Yeah.
Question, Derek, jump to the record. So so from our gather this morning, what are next steps?
Vice Chair Evans, for the record, the next steps are a couple of things. First of all, to work through our strategic plan, get that document finalized within the next 90 days, because that's going to lead to strategic objectives for us to focus on moving forward that are timely, relevant, and impactful in terms of providing input from this board. Number 2, what we can anticipate is the fact that we'll be looking for barriers and impediments to be identified for us. I think we already had several identified that we can begin to work on. For example, gaining access to grant funding, that's one we need to start working on right away. In addition to that, she's not here right now, but board member Maureen Schaefer compiled a pretty extensive list of things that we can be working on. So that was very helpful. It's not all inclusive. There may be others as we move forward. The other thing that we can anticipate is from a reporting requirement, again, the offer to provide the data at its rawest original source level, but then at the same time, if we need to have discussions about additional metrics, that'll be on the table as well. So I think there were some key things there. Let me ask, did I summarize that well enough? All right, fair enough. So the bottom line is the next. Yes, go ahead.
Chris Nelson, so adding Workforce Summit.
So, a workforce summit as well to bring and convene everyone together.
Who's ever?
The workforce system.
Oh, okay.
It's the state.
Including training providers.
It's stakeholders.
Okay.
Chris Nelson, for the record, it's everybody that's involved in the
One,
system.
one of the discussions, and this is also a strategic objective in draft, is the fact that we need to make sure that we do a better job of aligning the various services and programs that are offered, as well as braiding, I believe is the term, in terms of the funding and the services provided as well. Again, that's in the draft. And just for the record, so everyone will realize, similar conversations all across the country in terms of doing a better job with our workforce development system as far as alignment and braiding regarding programs and funding.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on? I'm trying to give some time back and appreciation for the long day.
Katie Gilbertson, for the record, did you guys want to talk about the February report submission? If you guys had any specific questions on them? They were sent out a couple weeks at a time. So you guys have them now.
And what I would anticipate is some of that may have been OBE or overcome by events by virtue of the conversations we had this morning. But it's still good to ask because not everyone was at the meeting this morning.
Well, yeah, thanks, board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Johnson, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things from our report, if you don't mind, since we talked about communicating what the agencies do and kind of advertising it. So this is an opportunity for us to highlight a couple of those things. In partnership with the U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing, the Voc Rehab signed an agreement where we'll be the agency in Nevada that can provide the free bill readers to any individuals who are blind, visually impaired, and not able to read the bills, so they can just come to our agency, ask for that service, and we'll be able to issue them free of charge to anybody. So if you know anybody, or please share that information. Also, we've partnered with the Nevada Center for Excellence in Disability at the University of Reno, Nevada, for them to help us develop a parent training academy to help families of students with disabilities smoothly transition from secondary education to post-secondary and employment. We've just found that there's a huge disconnect in terms of how the schools work with the parents and families of students with disabilities. And then when they transition over to a state workforce system, it's a little bit different. There's just different types of services that are provided. And we wanted to just have a better way to help prepare those families. And we're kind of excited that we're going to get that started in spring of this year. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of those new services or initiatives that we are working on.
Thank you very much. One other individual I want to ask, Milt, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not at this time, thanks.
And Mr. Vice Chair, for the record, Chris Sewell, Dieter, I apologize. I'm going to take a few of my people with me. We have a flight to catch, and I have been told that the airport is extremely crowded. So we're gonna get out of here. So my apologies.
No, that's fine. Thank you very, very much for joining us today, Director Sewell and everyone else. Mike Yoder,
Mike Yoder, for the record, I just want to say thank you for inviting us to today's gathering, and I thought that was it was really valuable to us, and I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Safe travels. Thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to agenda item 13 for discussion and information item only. The chair would like to see if there's any new business from the board members. And before moving on, the vice chair kindly requests that any member of the board who arrived late after roll call was taken to please identify themselves at this time so you are marked present. Anyone on Zoom that did not identify themselves previously? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Moving on to agenda item number 14, members of the public are invited for final comments. No action may be taken on any matters during public comments until the matter itself has been included on an agenda as an item for possible action. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comments here in Las Vegas? Any public comments in Carson? Yes, Mr. Goff.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Evans. My name is Alex Goff. I work for Senator Jackie Rosen here in the Reno office, and I manage the workforce development portfolio. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce myself. Thank you so much, Vice Chair Evans, for allowing me the opportunity. And thank you for a very informative meeting.
Thank you very much. Glad to have you in attendance because we know from some, and I'm not responding to an action item, just in general, we appreciate your presence because we anticipate there's some things that we're going to need federal assistance on to move things forward. So thank you for being here. Anyone else from Carson City or from Zoom? Okay, anyone on the telephone? Okay, hearing none, hearing no further comments, I hereby move to adjourn this meeting. Once again, thank you all very much, both for those of you that participated in the gathering this morning, as well as for everyone else that's here this afternoon, as well as doing double duty at both. Greatly appreciate you all on behalf of myself and Chair Anderson. Thank you all.
Thank you.